know him and his family, and it's a pleasure to have you on. So we're going to have some fun, talk about what it's like being in your shoes, what you think about. And since this is LinkedIn Live, also wanted to encourage people who are on to just put in questions. And since we are live, we'll try to get to as many comments, questions, suggestions as possible. But why don't we start off, Robert, just like introduce yourselves, how did you get started? What are you doing today? Things like that.
Yes. So hi, everyone. I'm Robert, number 39, car bum with Lamborghini Huracán GT3 Evo. Racing when I was about 10 years old. From New York, I started go-karting in state and in go-karting all the way up until I was 50 car team. Your levels of car racing. I was racing for Michael Mario Andretti's 19, 20, 21 years old. Transition over to sports car racing. So for car bound with Peregrine Racing this year. But
yeah, super exciting. And as we're going, let people in the chat know where you're tuning in from. I know we have people typically from all over the world. But, so you had mentioned Mario Andretti, like super well-known person in the race field. Now, with Peregrine, with IMSA, like what, I also hear there's like NASCAR and Formula One. Like what are all the different race circuits, certainly in America, if not around the world?
These different types of racing, right? People know NASCAR. We do is sports car racing. If any of you have seen the movie Ford, type of racing I do, we do these races that range from 24 hours and have 2 to 4 drivers on and off. So, let's say 2 to 11 p.m. and then tires, fuel. I get out of the car, and he drives from a.m. It's sports car racing.
Yeah, pretty neat. And yes, some of the races that you had mentioned, 24-hour relay, 12-hour relay. I had the opportunity to go to a few of them, like in Sebring, and just to sit there and watch as kind of like the fan, but I was in the suite, was pretty impressive. Like what are, people have to understand, it's like you racing, then like you go, I had the opportunity to be in the pit, and there are people like sleeping in the background. Like how do you get ready for like an endurance race? Is it you, one other driver, like an hour and a half on, an hour and a half off? Are you napping? Are you active and watching what other folks are doing at the time?
I said is right. Your strategy is always changing things. In a lot of sports, you actually build, a regimen, your system of before I perform, before I can listen to going to have that luxury, because to get in the car in an hour, and in 5 minutes they'll say actually everything. So what that down to is you can't have your own analytical and focus on that, right? The poor way of explaining it.
Great. Well, one quick thing is, your audio is kind of chopping in and out. So, like our producers are saying, we may want to reschedule. But that being said, are you able to either like talk a little slower or like dial in on your phone. And while you try that, I know we wanted to talk a little bit about like what type of data you use and your simulation and things like that, that presentation that you have. And if you want to try that, and if there's still technical issues, then maybe we reschedule, but give it one more shot.
Yeah, I'll try to dial in. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that.
Sure. So Robert's video look is like real time, just the phone. So all the simulations he does. Yeah, so so one of the things that might have been choppy, but I speak, Robert speak. So he was saying that there are some races that are, an hour and a half, and it's like super fast. You're constantly on, and others are like more endurance racing, 12 hours, 24 hours as well, and there it's like more endurance. You and another driver, sometimes two other drivers, and a lot of times it's just keep the car alive, don't crash. And a lot of other cars, just kind of simply like break down. I remember one race where Robert's car, like the engine had trouble and it took like an hour to get it fixed, but he was still in the race and other cars would drop out entirely. And then also had some privilege to work with some Formula One racing, and a lot of it is, just keep driving, keep getting in the game, kind of like that old adage for, the half of the work is to just show up and be there on time. So that's one of the strategies as well. So, so that's it. It's the other thing that impresses me is it's kind of a grueling, 9 months out of the year doing racing. So as a fan, you come in and you see that the cars are giving it their all, but then when the race is over, you have a post-race evaluation. People pack up the car, put it into these trailers, and then drive to the next race location. And within 5 days, you are off to another town, another race. And that's what people don't see, is that it's both a grueling event for that day, but also for the long haul. And it's all about getting points. So depending on what position you're in, the first three are podiums. You get certain points for coming in first, second, and third. And then you can get points above and beyond that. And the more points you accumulate over the season, that's really where you get evaluated as a driver, and your sponsors evaluate, which cars that they want to sponsor. So let me first see, is Robert, as soon as you come on, just start talking so we'll know you're there. Otherwise, we'll keep waiting for you. So the other thing is that this is a data intensive sport. There are multiple hundreds of sensors on the car giving information back hundreds of times a second. So being able to get that data and interpret it and understand like what are your strengths and weaknesses is key, as well as in terms of simulations. Robert goes through like can roll out of bed and has a simulator in his apartment in New York, and being able to almost like with your eyes closed understand the navigation of the track is key. So there's the race itself as a driver. When do you accelerate and turn and decelerate? It's multiple G forces. So that's the actual physical aspect of the race. Then there is the race strategy, and hello again, Robert. And then there's like car engineering as well. So Robert, try saying something now. On mute. So I can't hear you yet. So he'll try coming back. All right, so while that's happening, so I was talking about the pre-race. Then in the race, there's a lot of strategy as well. For example, I know his opponents are different personalities, and on each racetrack, there are certain areas that you could pass, and certain areas where it's like impossible to pass. So understanding like the areas of the track are kind of crucial, and then the tendencies of the opposing driver. So one of the things Robert talks to me about is on some tracks, like cars like test you and see it's like a game of chicken. If you swerve away from them, then every driver learns that's your reputation, that you'll back down, and forever they will keep pestering you, challenging you. Um, so like establishing that dominance and that you're not afraid to bump into other cars is key. And then learning what your opponent's strategies are as well. So
Hey,
Robert,
Ari, are you able to hear me?
all right, yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome. Sorry,
Much
sorry
better.
about that, guys. I do this from my iPhone sitting in front of my computer here, but we're back.
Awesome. So I was just kind of giving everyone the rundown of like what data is used and kind of what the pregame and in-game races. But yeah, why don't we hear from you, like in terms of like what type of data do you evaluate when you do these simulations? Like, is it just when do I brake, when do I turn? What type of data do you collect? And then like I brought this up once a year ago, and people say, is it really true aerodynamically that there's so much downforce that if you were to theoretically go in like the Lincoln Tunnel or the Holland Tunnel, that your car could be stuck to the ceiling? Is that true?
Yes, so that's completely true. Um, so much downforce, right? The air is moving over the wings, the car, and it's pushing the car into the ground. It's creating a lower center of gravity and through the corners. So if you get up to a speed where the amount of pressure being pushed down, pushing the car down into the ground, and the actual weight of the car, and at that point you can drive upside down. So for around 180 miles an hour, I think those cars make so much downforce that's around 130, 140 miles an hour. And when it comes to data, there's so much data coming off, and there are over 350 data points on my end. Honestly, I don't even look at half of them. It's not my job to look at them. I don't, but mainly what I'm looking at as a driver to help with my own performance in driving the car, the speed of the race car, how hard we hit the brakes, the RPM of the engine, the G-load of the car, the heat of the brakes and the tires, the angle of the throttle pedal, and a few others. I'll be evaluating those every time I get out of the car, and all that data is going back analyzing it while I'm actually out on the track in a race and coaching me while I'm driving the.
Yeah, pretty cool. And then yeah, that's one of the big questions is like um, there is tons of data that's going on. When you're actually in the race, like you had given me this great opportunity to sit in the pit and see what's going on, but also to listen in on the headset. And you might think there's like lots of chatter, like to your left, to your right, hurry, turn. But in reality, there's like not much. Like if someone's coming up from behind, or hey Robert, I looks like this is heating up. So like, what type of communication happens during the race, and like how much are you thinking data and how much are you just thinking, all right, accelerate, decelerate, turn, and keeping it simple?
Well, I would say communication during the race going to be the team is going to communicate to me on the data of what they think I can do better with. They're going to communicate to me what they think I can do better with the car, right? Probably 40, 50 dials, knobs, and settings I can change inside the cockpit through the corners while I'm driving it. And they'll be communicating our strategy. When are we going to pit? Do I need to save fuel? Do I need to save tires? Around me doing? Am I going to get past? Am I going to pass the guy in front of me? So they'll be communicating, and they'll probably be talking to me once every 1 or 2 laps around. But is that the data is what's happening to the car, whereas I'm the driver sitting in the car. I can do before the data is going to show it. So 80, 85, before they even tell me something on the radio, hey, Robert, to engine map 8 to help with the track, where we need you to turn up the ABS to help the car brake. I'm going to have felt that already. Made that change before they tell me. So off the car, but there's also that human element of I need to be feeling the car. I need to be one with the car, work in conjunction with each other to get the perfect package.
Cool. So let me try bringing up. There's some visuals that I have. Yeah, I don't have permission to do that. So why don't we just keep going on without the visuals for this case? So yeah, let me. The other thing is, like, while you're driving, there's like this reptilian mammalian thing of like, careful, I'm about to hit somebody. Like when I drive, oh no, there's a sheer wind, like I'm scared to crash. Is that still going through your mind and you have to overcome that kind of panic? Or is it like you've raced enough, you have no fear? It's like you're just being aggressive or cautious normally?
You definitely don't fear cars for 7 years now, and you get into crashes. You're going to have accidents. So much around you is going to happen that you can't control. I have a good enough driver that I'm not going to make a mistake, or someone isn't going to take me out, or but it happens. That there's so much safety equipment on the car. I would someone crashing into me, or myself crashing with another car. I someone safely. I know, or I hope, that the other drivers around me are going to make good decisions. Who make good decisions. I know the other drivers who don't make good decisions, and I stay away from them. Biggest thing that is, I wouldn't say scary race car, is when you're going through a corner on the limit. Right? There's nothing like feeling like the car is about to spin around, drive headfirst into a wall at 200 miles an hour. Being able to push yourself to those limits is and I'd say again, it comes back to the data. One of the biggest examples, I'm racing around Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We were averaging about miles an hour, and we were hitting about 215 miles an hour around that track. It's a turn in for turn 1 at the speedway at 215 miles an hour, and your brain tells you can't do it, and your body tells you can't do it that corner at that speed, but you see the data heading into the session, and you just have to commit and take that corner at full throttle. And that's probably the scariest thing you'll ever do in a race you think you're capable of.
Very cool. And by the way, for the LinkedIn Live, keep putting in some questions and thoughts into the chat. Let me ask you one more question. So there's data that you get. There's artificial intelligence, which takes the data and tries to put meaning to it. Whether for you or for like racing in general, what do you see the role of like data science or data analytics or artificial intelligence to help you or to help the engineering of the car or anything else?
I'd say there's a and at this point, race cars are so advanced, drivers are so good, ultra important. It's what allows us to go fast and what allows us to get the car. I would say there's so much data coming off these cars now, 90 gigabytes of data stored every weekend. That they don't have time to look through all of it and sort through all of it to find exactly what's wrong with the car. We have to pick by looking at the data traces that we think are going to lead us in the right direction, analyze all of it, right? If, we could have more artificial intelligence input through the data that could help us just pinpoint the issue on the car, that would be to have the car be in the window, be perfect every single time we got on the racetrack. On top of that, as a driver, there's so much I have to do inside the car. I'm driving the car, but I'm having to change the setup of the car while I'm driving, right? I have me to do this. Imagine if, there was software that could detect exactly the car was, or how the car was going to handle in 5, was able to make changes to the car for me, right? That would let me fully 100% focus braking, turning the wheel, accelerating out of the turns, and we would be so much more efficient and much more smoothly. We wouldn't be chasing the car, we'd be on top of it from start to finish. So, it becomes more advanced. That's only going to come more into play. Since we aren't able to have the visual aids, I brought my simulator steering wheel. This is a replica of the wheel we have in the car, right? And there's so much, the percentage of brake pressure to the front and the rear wheels. You have different engine mappings. You have different and traction control mappings, right? You have buttons to switch between different pages of data. And we can map these however convenient for us. Right, and on the back of the wheel, we have on the left to upshift and on the right to downshift, and we have these two paddles down here, the race car, to help us shift and help us get out of the box quickly when we do pit stops. Everything that we can change on the car, we can do inside the cockpit, and if we had the car, then we could get rid of all of that, and I can just 100% focus on the possible.
Yeah, very cool. And one other cool technology that you showed me was in your rear view mirror, like that technology to show if they're gaining or losing. Talk about that for a second.
Right. So, in racing, normally have is a spotter. So you would have a person with a end at a corner where there's probably the most passing, right? Where there's the biggest brake zone. And they would tell you, oh, there's a car who's, 500 feet behind you. Oh, you're catching this guy in front of you, right? We realized this wasn't the most to, analyze where our competition was and keep the driver informed. So what we having a rear view mirror, we've put a camera in the back of the car, and we have a screen where that rear view mirror would be. And this is a $10,000 piece of equipment. It tracks every car around us, on them, right? If there's a car that's catching me at a really fast, put a red arrow on that car, and it's gonna, go right into my line of sight. I'm gonna know if there's a car that's kind of holding steady with me. They're going to have a green arrow on top of it, yellow if it's somewhat in the middle. And then let's say he's on my left or my right, and my blind spot arrow on my left or on my right, and it's going to blink. So it makes sure that I know that they're there, right. And so this is so much more efficient, right? You're not just knowing where all the cars are around you in one corner, around you everywhere on the racetrack, and you can see where they're catching you. You can see where you're pulling away from passes, and you can react, block them, move in front of them. So it's a game-changing piece. We had a connection issue early on in the year. We did a race without it, and it was painful. I ended up hitting 2 people because I just didn't know that they were there, and I turned into them.
And for me, that's like one of the keys of data science is it's not just what data you have, but it's called feature engineering, where you could see, for example, what's the change in data. So it's not just there's a car 20 feet behind you, it's that car is getting closer and closer or further and further. And that's kind of fundamental to getting an edge in data science, really, for any industry. And for me, that's like such a cool use case that it does the AI for you, but it also makes it like a simple color, red or green, so the driver could take action. It also reminds me, just saw that movie Top Gun, which I love. But yeah, there it's all about technology that could help the fighter pilot, which has a lot of similarities to what your exciting daily life is. And so speaking of that, we're kind of wrapping up. People want to know, what are your next couple of races? But before you answer, I also want to know, like Robert was at NBC on Peacock. There's like this nationally televised race, and you got the podium. My whole family was like cheering you on, but that was like national coverage. That was awesome. Doesn't happen every race, but what's your schedule looking like the next couple of weeks?
So we have a race this weekend at kind of northwest Connecticut. That's a super fun weekend, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we end our year with 3 more in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We have Virginia International Raceway in Lamar in October at Red Atlanta. So we got 4 races left, kind of spread out over the next 2-3 months. We're 5th in the championship right now, and it's 350 points for a win, so we're still definitely in the hunt to win this year. And we got a brand new, so we're going to be strong. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited. Our listeners are excited. And yeah, for call to action, if you want to get in touch with Rob, he's like all over social media, and the email is rob@Megennis Motorsport. And my email for anyone who's interested, loves staying in touch, is Ari, just ARI, @datarobot.com. So I wanted to thank you, Robert, for being here. Looking forward to staying in touch, and I'll be seeing you in Elkhart, Wisconsin, and some other races. And any final thoughts?
Nope. I hope to see you guys all at the track and follow along. It's going to be a fun end to the year.
Great. Thanks, Robert. And thanks for everyone listening in. See you next time.